Okay, it's on.
Fantastic.
Covered. All set.
And the lens is clear?
The lens is not cleared. Now it is.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do here?
Yeah, sure. I'm a photographer. First and foremost, a photographer. Have been a professor in photography in the US for 5 years. And me and my wife Virginie, we came to the island just this past August, moving from East Vancouver, Commercial Drive. And what we do mostly is we're the founders and the directors of a non-profit organization called Photofilmic that is dedicated to promoting emerging photographers still working on film and analog processes. And we do that through mostly through a big annual jury competition that culminates into a traveling exhibition. So we promote 90 photographers every year, and then we exhibit 30 through different venues in the US and in Canada, and hopefully soon elsewhere. So that's what we do.
Does that leave you with any time to participate in any other cultural activities?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sort of ongoing, daily routine that we have since we're taking care of most of the work, the communications, the social media, the programming, and all of that. So we work around, that kind of schedule. But yeah, we can always make time. It's possible.
It takes some effort, right? But,
a little bit, yeah.
Can you tell us about your most memorable cultural or artistic experience on Bowen Island?
I'm not sure if it's going to be memorable yet because we've been here only a short time, just a few months. But I would say that artistically speaking or culturally speaking, this place here, the Sugar Cube Gallery, is the most memorable experience that we've had. Just delivering our sessions for the Vanalog photo booth, photographing people with the dogs and doing portraits on different materials. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a really interesting place to work in and to talk to people and to connect. So I would say this place.
Do you think you could connect in the same way in different ways? Through social media, for instance, or different venues? I mean, in whatever different way?
You mean for Bowen?
Yeah.
I think this is the most direct and interesting and interactive way I think that there is to introduce yourself and what you do and the kind of photography that you want to make available, to Bowen residents. We do a little bit of Facebook and social media for this particular project, but and it's successful in that way too. But I think this is nothing can really replace the human contact and communication.
It's funny though, because in a way it's not, you can't plan or program for all of that. It's
exactly, that's what makes it more interesting, I think, than just typed up information or sort of back and forth information. Real life communication is always more
so it's an open
richer. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. What's the greatest challenge you face as a professional artist on Bowen
Island? I would say that the greatest challenges that we face as artists, and it's not peculiarly on Bowen Island or peculiar to Bowen Island. I think Bowen Island in some ways might make it a little easier. Strangely enough, I think it's just a matter of making your projects and your finances and your overall lifestyle all work together. And I think on Bowen Island, this is a little easier, simpler in the sense that the lifestyle is here, that the reality of the place that is very different from Vancouver is here. It can be motivational, to some degree.
Do you mean the cultural lifestyle?
Yeah, the surrounding, the environment, the social place that it is, it's very different. So I think that it helps in terms of being somewhere and feeling, okay, or feeling glad or feeling happy, every day, whatever you do. So I think that's a good starting point. So it's less of a challenge, I think, on the island. But for the rest, it's always the same. It's making it all work, growing your projects, being somewhat okay with your finances. It's always, give and take depending on what you do.
Do you find that process a creative as well, though, balancing those?
You have to be flexible and creative in life.
Really,
That's for sure. Oh yeah, otherwise nothing can work. I mean, if you're squared out onto a limited set of solutions or limited set of things that you accept to do or live or experience, then you might just stop at some point in the project, So I think you have to leave the door open to a lot of possibilities and experiences and go with the flow, they say, and try to be positive about it.
And that's a very interesting creative process.
It's a process of life. There's no better art than that.
Oh, we should have a way out. I'll go to tick that. Excellent. Is there anything that holds you back from participating in more creative activities? Is there anything?
On the island, I would say mostly time, the time limitations, the amount of time that we have available to interact socially or culturally or artistically. So that's the reason why, for instance, doing these events here sort of, fills in the gap a little bit of that, because we are socializing and we are offering, artistic services, and we are having conversations and having great exchanges with a lot of people, passing through or, scheduled if they pre-book, their photo shoots. So I think that's also good for that. But yeah, time is the greatest limitation more than anything, I think.
I think that's true for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think so.
When you think of arts and culture on Bowen Island, do you think of any particular person? Is there the greatest cultural asset, or it's?
I think I view it more as a sort of a safe haven where you can be an artist and be comfortable being an artist because of the community that Bowen Island is hosting. So I think people tend to have a lot more understanding of what it is to be an artist on the island. And because of that, I think it's so that's what I think in terms of art culture on Bowen Island. I think about the people in general, the population, the community that it is as a whole.
It's really interesting. I think that's true for many people.
Yeah,
many people have said that.
I think so. It's something you feel around you. It's.
Did you feel that the first time you were here?
I think I did a little bit, little blips of it, but I think it was there from the start, and so that's why we decided to move. Each time we would come back, we'd feel it a little more, and so we decided it's probably a good thing to try. It's just plus it's so close to Vancouver, so you're not completely removed. Yeah.
What do you think most differentiates here from Vancouver?
I would say, like we were just saying, the community and the sort of tolerance and the more open lifestyle that might be possible here. I think also a big difference with Vancouver is just, Vancouver it's hard to live in. I mean, after 4 years, there are many things about Vancouver that are not functioning easily, I would say, for artists.
What kind of thing?
Well, the real estate is crazy, that's one. I hate the traffic, that's another one. And I didn't necessarily found the art scene to be so thriving and so rich. So I never felt that I was giving up a treasure coming to Bowen Island, in terms of the connections to an art community.
That's interesting.
So yeah, I think that's the big difference. I think Vancouver is less livable, at least in my opinion, in my experience. It's less livable, and I find Bowen Island more livable. Yeah.
What do you think? So, what do you think of the artistic community in Vancouver?
I think it's very. I don't want to sound too negative about it, but I think it's not fully opened. I think it has a sort of provincial view of itself, and it's very self-centered. And what we do is for the filmic is the exact contrary. We're trying to bring the world to Vancouver and take Vancouver to the world, and Vancouver, for what we could see, is very interested in Vancouver itself. So it's a sort of it's a quarrel, it's a sort of conversation that is where not everyone is listening, and It takes time to get the message through. I think it will grow. It's still very young, I think, and emerging, scene, and so it needs to mature. It needs to bring in more external elements, I think, into its culture, so that there's a sort of mix that takes and that enriches effectively, so that the sort of vision that it has, is more connected, I think, to other realities outside of Vancouver.
But you wouldn't say the same things for Bowen Island.
Well, Bowen Island it's a much more scale, right? But I think it has had a tradition of hosting artists for a long time, right? So I don't think that there is any conflict at all with artists trying to be themselves or the background that they come from. I think it's very open-ended and open, shortly here on the island. I think in Vancouver, if you're not a Vancouver born and raised or sort of provincial or sort of acclimated, person to Vancouver, I think it's very hard to just be accepted and to be able to interact and to build, relationships that eventually flourish in your art. I think it's a tough thing still to do today, I think, in Vancouver. I lived in many other places, in Paris, in Chicago, different, US cities, and I didn't have that problem over there. Again, Chicago is much bigger also in terms of as a city, as an art scene as well. So yeah, I think that's the challenge for Vancouver. It has to really, it has to develop into the major Western Canada, art center that challenges, the East enough, that sort of and sets a dialogue, not only with the East but with outside of Canada too, with the US, with Europe, with Asia, with a lot of things.
It's a very interesting perspective, because I think most people maybe that have lived here for a long time would be more self-deprecating and think it was the opposite way around with Vancouver, not to think that actually it's more open here because of the tradition of having artists.
Huh. Interesting point.
I think, well, I'm not sure. I'm guessing.
Yeah. I'm just, again, I just live here, not even 3 months, so what do I know, right? It's just more of a feeling or, sort of early,
Very interesting. So the question about what have you seen change in the time that you've been on Bowen Island, I think
probably not much, except the fact that we're here. that's probably about it.
The crosswalks are really cute now. This is
It's getting colder.
It's getting really cold.
That's the most noticeable change.
Is there any kind of artistic or cultural activity you'd like to learn more about if you knew who to ask on Bowen Island?
There would be one thing, but I'm not sure it would qualify as an artistic thing. But I'm very interested in horse riding, and I've been horse riding a lot when I was younger. And I would like to sort of associate photographic practice with horse riding in order to find, inspiration, in order to find places, in order to move through space photographically, on a horse, something like that. And I think that, and I've heard that there were, some horses on the island. So
I've seen them. I got lost. I went for a walk that way.
Yeah.
I found a whole bunch of stables and.
Yeah, I've seen this. So there are horses.
That'd be fantastic.
But so I think I would like to sort of, if I had more time, of course, sort of initiate a process where I could sort of adapt an analog photographic practice and material. Horse riding in terms of moving around on the island, in the space, in the...
Was it the very first film, and that was when they discovered that how many hoofs that horses have on the ground?
Yes, there was Murbridge, a British photographer.
And was that a series of stills?
It was a series of stills, yes, rapid stills, shot with early triggered strobes, kind of strobe technology, but... eventually Murbridge proved that the horse in its allure, in its movements, was actually levitating above the ground at one point in its movements. It was not touching the ground anymore. would change an entire perspective of how you draw a horse
Yeah.
in movement afterwards.
And the whole concept of
Yeah, it was something that photography could see that we couldn't see.
yeah.
So that was a very interesting application of photography in
So
terms
this
of
would be a
knowledge.
fantastic continuation.
It's true. It could. It could take from there.
What could we find on Bowen Island?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think you already answered what brought you to Bowen Island, but if there's any more you'd like to say, but what would you miss if you had to leave as well?
I think I would miss the that feeling of place and time, and it's something that I actually feel like losing whenever I go back to Vancouver. Sort of past West Vancouver, I don't feel in the same place anymore. But every time I come back to the island, at some point, somewhere in West Vancouver, it hits you again, and you feel closer to home, and then eventually, you reach the island. So I would miss that unique feeling of being somewhere, or calling home somewhere, like on an island. That's what I miss the most as of today.
You're not leaving.
Yeah, hopefully I will never leave.
Do you have any other thoughts about Bowen's artistic needs, its strengths, opportunities, or ideas about its culture and development?
Well, I'm not sure about the needs. Still too early, to tell for me. But we have this idea. We actually started to develop an idea through photo filmmaking for the next summer, and is to put Bowen Island on the map as an international art retreat. And so we have this idea of this concept of village, the photo filmic village, being at the Snug Cove and sort of disseminating artists and teaching, advanced workshops from all over the world, living on the island for a few weeks and, teaching students, but also, why not, the population around, and having a cafe here, having a meal there, sleeping on the island and interacting, and sort of like instilling, that sense of broader artistic community and connection.
Somebody was telling me about this last week, actually, when I was doing the same interview, but it was that somebody had tried to do a similar thing with kind of bed and breakfast and cabins or whatever, but it was only for people coming to Bowen.
I see.
And I think the classes were different from the ones that you were thinking about.
Yeah, I think it would be nice if people could really, quote unquote, live here for a few weeks. In the sense that we'd make social connections and they would.
And the social connections with the people living here.
Exactly, with the people living here. So that the purpose, the driven process or purpose of coming to the island to be an artist that gives a workshop, for instance, would expand into a larger experience for the people on the island. I think that would be nice. Then we could call it a village, really, an artistic village.
Can you press stop? The rest of it I write down.
Sure. No problem. The red button, right?
Thank